everyone. Welcome to the Trials Site News podcast interview series. I'm Erin, your host, and today we will be chatting with Stephen Go, who is CEO of Achiko, which is a really cool company working on new diagnostic tests, particularly for COVID-19. So, Stephen, thanks so much for joining us. And if you don't mind, can you start out by telling us a little bit about you and the company?
Okay, so my background is I'm tech. My parents were academics, and Dad was a professor of math. So I grew up on campus pretty much everywhere: Berkeley, NYU, Oxford, across Asia, and as you can tell from my accent, a lot of it in Australia. And this company was originally a fintech company, and when the pandemic struck, it wasn't able to complete its vision. So it reoriented its fintech business towards a testing and payments piece, and then very quickly it realized that testing was broken. And I had another startup with a friend in Spain in regenerative medicine, and he came up with this idea of using Aptomex in a diagnostic format, and that's where Aptomex has come from. That's how they've all sort of converged together in the strange way that the pandemic has sort of, in a strange way, affected us all. Yeah.
So that's a perfect segue into my next question. So I read about Aptomex. It sounds really neat. Now it says it uses aptamers versus antigens. So can we start there? Can you explain the difference and why? What are the advantages of doing that?
Yeah, as you're aware, there are two main bodies of testing technologies for COVID. One reflex is PCR testing, which as a molecular test is extremely accurate and of course is the gold standard. But because of its design, it's often impractical from a large scale setting, as we're all in coming to year 3 of the pandemic very aware of. And then of course there's rapid testing, and training the immune cells of some poor animal to recognize COVID has its own limitations. And whilst antigenic approaches are very good at picking up COVID at higher viral loads, it's clear that the data indicates that COVID spreads at mostly lower viral loads. So there's a structural hole here in testing. Aptomex is interesting because rather than using an antigen, we're using an aptamer in a rapid test format, in this case, a colorimetric assay. It's loosely bound to gold nanoparticles. And then we're exposed to a standardized saliva test, and then a salt quench to aggregate the gold nanoparticles. It's exposed then to a spectrophotometer, and based on the spectrophotometer, we're able to pick up the change in the ratio between the aptamers and the gold nanoparticles, and then we can tell if COVID is present or not. And we're really excited with the results. The results are that we're picking up positive cases of COVID at very low viral loads, where many rapid tests just don't reach. So we're really excited with that.
So can you walk me, and this is for somebody who's at home, correct? It's right. It would be available technically. Okay. So. Yeah.
Oh, just to correct for that.
Okay.
So because it is different chemistry and it is new, we took a conservative approach for regulatory approval, and then we used an industrial strength spectrophotometer, which has been approved for about 25 years or so, and in a clinical setting. And we did that just simply to get the test out and so that we could just get into the field.
Okay.
And we are working on a home test version of that, where you would have a spectrophotometer the size of a pack of cards. It's connected to your mobile phone, and you would be able to do your own molecular grade test for just a few dollars a test, which would be really cool.
Okay. So, and I read it's being used, it was approved in Indonesia by the Minister of Health. Is that right? Okay. And how has that been? And so it's being used in clinics and hospitals? Is that
it's rolling out now? And
okay.
We've completed a pilot in 3 locations, in Jakarta and Bali and a place called Pekanbaru, which is in Sumatra. And then now we're starting to expand on that rollout right now. We're looking forward to telling the world about some great news later this quarter about that rollout in Indonesia. And then we're expecting a CE mark sometime this quarter, in the first quarter of 2022. Yeah, looking forward to doing a bit of good in the world.
Yeah,
that should be fun.
Well, I mean, like you said, the testing thing has been a mess, to put it lightly, in terms of accuracy and access. So where you want to take this then is where somebody who thinks they might have COVID can just get this test and use it at home, and the logistics would be easy enough for them to do that.
Yeah, it's got to be sensitive enough where it's going to give you the comfort that it's going to genuinely help you protect the people that you care about and you love, and the people around you. And then it's got to be accessible. So yes. I do understand that the nasal pharyngeal swab wears thin after a while.
Yeah. It's a lot of people. It's uncomfortable for a lot of people.
It really doesn't work. And so we've got a saliva-based test where we use Listerine or a mouthwash to sanitize the mouth and then provoke a fresh batch of saliva. And we've found that we're getting fantastic results in that format. And we're trying to try and submerge this in a classical dental protocol so that we could get back to our old lives and do the things we used to do without this sort of being as invasive as testing has become.
Back to normal. I know we've been saying back to normal for a while, and it haven't really delivered on that promise yet, for sure. But everyone's trying. You mentioned that it's accurate. You mentioned some statistical terms there, sensitivity and specificity, which some people may know about, some people don't. But do you have any numbers or any sense of accuracy that you can provide?
Yeah, in a in vitro setting, we were able to get sensitivity and specificity numbers around 80% in a lab environment with a manual test. In a standardized product in a commercial environment, we're completing that work now. We're really encouraged. We're very sure that certainly for CD scores under 25, which is where other rapid tests benchmarks themselves, then yes, we can produce a test that's greater than 95% sensitive and specific. That's unambiguous at this point. And it looks like at the higher viral loads where even the Abbott test reports only like a 10, 20% sensitivity rate, we're getting numbers which are a healthy multiple of that. So we're very excited with that. Very excited.
Sounds good. What is Health Buddy?
Oh, yes. Okay. So Health Buddy is the original fintech platform for which was part of the company. And we moved that around. Our theory was that if we could help people test themselves, then they could play a game and surround themselves with people who are similarly tested. So rather than the current model where everything is punishment and you must have this certificate, you must have this, you must have that, and you're punished for not having these things, going to places, whatever, we would flip it on its head and we would turn this into a positive thing where people could gamify the experience to be surrounded by people who are similarly tested or similarly vaccinated. And then we could align that with payments and rewards and allow places to be involved in making them places safe rather than putting up stop signs everywhere and making it a very painful experiences where painful and very divisive experience.
Yes,
as the public discourse would have you believe here.
Oh no, I mean here in New York City, I mean I have some friends and family who got the vaccine and some who didn't, but you need to have that vaccine card to go in anywhere pretty much right now. That's really interesting though. I haven't heard this idea yet. This gamification and making it positive for people versus you can't partake in society and a punishment. Oh, that's interesting.
Amazing habit. A bit of sugar always helps.
That is
or in 2020 maybe it doesn't. It's well, good. But you know what I mean. Yes.
I know. No, I understand what you mean. Yeah, sugar is a whole other topic, but that's really interesting. And the Health Buddy, this app will work with the diagnostic test.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's a colorimetric assay, read by a spectrophotometer, and then we put some smart maths in the read, and that's how we're getting the accuracy. It does need to be, the data needs to be piped to some other digital device. In this case, a mobile phone, and And we were thinking that yes, a more positive experience would be better than a negative one.
Yeah.
And help people get their lives back, right? Yeah.
And do you plan on, does your company plan on, if it goes well with COVID-19 eventually, do you plan on using this type of aptamer test for maybe other viruses and that kind of thing?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm thinking at the moment is, look, COVID is certainly going to be with us for a while. I think I think we're all very lucky that Omicron is proving itself to be less lethal as some of the other variants. But for the next variant, it's a roll of the dice as to whether it's better or worse than the current variant. So, we're doubling down at the moment to make sure that we can get Aptomex and the corresponding application out as far as we can. Certainly for the next 6 months, that's our absolute focus. Get into homes, empower people to be able to manage themselves rather than dictate and sort of wave sticks around people's faces and all that sort of stuff. I think that's a good thing. Certainly, aptamers are interesting. It's certainly in the way that they're not that new, but it's certainly exciting to be able to use aptamers in this, certainly for the case of COVID. And then we're looking at this in other pathogens. Because of the footprint in Asia, we're playing around with dengue, and then we're currently going through a library of biomarkers for common ailments and the like, and looking at producing maybe a few polychlorific tests, so that if you've got a respiratory problem, can we identify which one of say 50 or so pathogens you've got, and the like. We think that is possible with given this chemistry in this format. So yeah, we're pretty excited. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the current situation with testing, not just in access, but affordability? Because a lot of people can't afford what the tests are being sold at right now. And does your company plan to kind of like consider that or address that when you go to market?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's great that rapid tests are more affordable than a PCR test, but there are still structural issues as to why a rapid test may still be several dollars to tens of dollars per test. In some places, like in Switzerland, which the company is listed, $10–15 for a cup of coffee may appear normal. That's not normal anywhere else. So and then especially for the global south, for every low and middle income country on the planet cannot afford $5, $10, $20 tests. In Indonesia, where we are, average incomes are $300 per month. For a family of 4 to be tested each week could cost $40, $50 a week. That's way too expensive. For a country like Indonesia, where vaccination rates remain at an effective 30% or thereabouts for double vaccinations, and and who knows where boosters will end up. Testing is still way too expensive. The cash cost for us to actually produce a test, the conjugate, the colloidal gold solution per test is only about 8 cents per test, and plastics are only in the pennies. So we have the ability to produce a test for the cost of a working person's lunch. Our plan is to try and bring the cost per test down to like $2, $1, somewhere in that range for most people. I think at that price point, with that level of accuracy, I think that's the way that we all get out of this thing. Yeah,
no, absolutely. I mean, and I think as long as people knew a test was actually accurate, I mean, that would be a selling point by itself. You'll put out a few more bucks for that, I think.
Yeah. And it's not a nasal swab.
It's not a nasal swab. Yeah, those are uncomfortable, and yeah, especially when someone else is doing it too. They're like, "Hey, you're in my brain right now. Can you stop?" Well, that all sounds very fascinating. Now, can you just can you comment on like how is the pandemic situation where you are?
Well, I'm stuck in Thailand, and I know, like every government, everyone's putting on a brave face and trying to communicate to their people that the end of the pandemic is nigh, and there's a pathway out and the like, and every government on the planet is running out of economic tools to keep their economies afloat.
Yeah.
And I think people are generally worried. Yeah. I think everyone here would know of someone who's had COVID or lost someone to COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah. I lost a family member and half a dozen friends. Surprisingly, average age about 40 as well. So younger.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I think people forget that in the global South, the thing about COVID is that it particularly affects people with comorbidities.
Mm-hmm.
The fact of the matter is, in the global South, just about everyone's got a comorbidity. They've got bad diets, poor nutrition, poor vaccination whilst growing up, universe of different things. And, it's a problem. Definitely.
No, I totally agree. And I think too, somebody's situation in life, how they live, their community, access to whatever kind of foods that they have, that kind of thing, that all kind of leads into the whole comorbidity equation. Well, Stephen, this is all very fascinating and cool. I wish you a lot of luck with it. And if anybody is interested in learning more about your company, your test, what is your website, social media handles, anything like that?
Yeah, reach us at achiko.com. Just
Achiko.com.
us there, contact at achiko.com, or find us on Twitter.
Okay.
At achiko.ag.
Okay.
And we'll be able to respond to you as quickly as possible. And we'd love to get in. We've been following most of the planet, and we're keen to get ourselves out to most of the planet.
Mm-hmm.
The supply chain allows us to produce tens, if not hundreds of millions of kits a month. But our thinking is starting to change now about making sure that we have a presence in North America, and we're looking at it closely.
Right, of course, the supply chain stuff. Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you so much, Erin, for the
absolutely, anytime. Thanks for your time. Thanks for our viewers for tuning in. And I wish you a lot of luck with this.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Bye-bye.
Okay.